yes, it is true that my Tony Kart is going to be retired. He's not compatible to be raced, so there's no point really practicing with him anymore. Because I'm now officially starting to compete. I've done my first ever club race. Although, pure numbers wise, yes, that didn't go amazing. That could have gone significantly better. All in all, it was a very, very good weekend and I learned a lot from it. But the key thing was that I couldn't race the Tony Kart on that weekend because there was multiple things that stopped it. For example, the fact that I couldn't get a fuel tank that was big enough and the brake lines were fading. Those are the two big things that stopped it from going out. And so I literally had to, that was what the whole constructing a go-kart series was. That's the whole reason that series exists, was because I had to buy a new go-kart. And instead of paying a lot of money, it's not cheap, to get someone else to build it, I decided to do it myself so I could learn how to do it and also save quite a bit of money. Obviously it's going to take a lot longer, but I would get all the experience from it and it would allow me to save heaps of money instead of having to pay all that and getting no experience at all. So yeah, the Tony Kart will not be out on track anymore. You will pretty much, unless something happens, I don't know what it would be, but maybe there's some event that happens that would mean that I have to go out in the Tony Kart, but I don't know what that could be. In all genuine honesty, I have no idea what sort of event that could be, and it would have to be a pretty big one, because I don't know what on earth would cause me to have to stop using the Alonso kart for a while and having to go back to the Tony Kart, especially because I'm not competing with it, and so really practicing with it was just getting me ready so that I could start competing. So yeah, that's pretty much it's like a status report basically, is that my old go-kart unfortunately is going to have to be retired, so it means that I'm permanently switching. I'm committing to the new kart to practice with it permanently. And I'm going to be putting a lot of work into fixing it, which I've already done a bit of. We got new parts in on the day, but there's still things I've got to do. Like the side pod doesn't have any sticker packs on it, the radiator is still dented, things like that. So the radiator is still usable, it's barely dented enough to really cause much of a problem. But the sticker pack is something I absolutely need to get. That is very, very important. The sticker pack is something that I would like to get very much, otherwise the rest of the kart has stickers on it and everything, and then there's this one side pod that is just a white plastic with a racing number on it, instead of a sticker pack and a racing number, It just looks really weird. And I don't want it to look like that. I want it to look how it was before the race, when all that disaster unfolded. Well, it wasn't the race technically, it was Heat 1, but it was on the race weekend. So yeah, so the next question that you might be asking is, what's going to happen to the Tony Kart? So as of right now, he's just sitting on one of those vertical stands in the garage. But he's not going to stay like that forever. So what I want to do with this kart is I want to do essentially what I did in order to actually start karting, which is I want to sell the kart to someone who was in the position I was a couple of years back when I first started recording on the channel. And, I first started uploading videos. Someone who was essentially in the same position that I was back then. So someone who is really passionate about the sport and wants to try and legitimately wants to have a crack at it. And, yes, the kart is in sort of shape, and yes, it doesn't comply with the regulations that would allow them to compete. But that's not the point, that's not what I bought the kart for. I didn't buy the kart because I wanted to go and compete in the very first season I possibly could. I think it's been 2 or 3 seasons between when I first bought the Tony Kart to competing this year. I think it's been at least 2 or 3 seasons that I missed just competing in the Tony Kart, just practicing in the Tony Kart before I actually started competing. So I missed quite a lot deliberately because I wasn't even close to being ready for it. Whereas now I'm starting to become ready for it, which is why I thought, okay, I'll give it a crack this season. And as I'm finding out, it can actually get quite hectic. But that's the sort of thing that I want for a a rookie like me is, or even someone who's like not even a rookie racer yet, because that's what the series is called. No, but like just someone who just wants to practice, like they want to get the grips of karting before they try and compete. You're going to need a new kart to start competing. That's pretty much a given. I mean, yes, you can buy a second-hand ready for competition kart, but then you got to practice it. What happens if you end up in a crash before a race starts? Things like that. Like you're out in practice and then someone rams up the back of you and you end up in the tyre wall and you got some damage. Then what? Especially if the race is coming up soon, then you got a bit of a problem. So it's just easier if you just have an old kart that you can't compete with, and so you got to get another kart anyway. But the point is not that you want to do everything on one kart. The point is that you want to have a kart that you can dedicate practicing the fundamentals with, because that's the most important thing, is the fact that fundamentals carry over. That's why I went from, in theory, no. Technically, because it's a completely different kart from the Tony Kart to the FA kart, technically I should have just completely fallen off and gone way down into the 50s again. But I didn't, because I knew the fundamentals that I'd been taught through my coach and helping me with the Tony Kart. I had learnt the fundamentals of the way the track is and how to best go around it as fast as you can. And so because of that, because I knew those fundamentals, I then went straight into the FA kart and was almost the same pace, despite the fact that it drives differently, the weight distribution's different, it's newer, there's aerodynamic, I don't know, what do you call it? There's better aerodynamics, essentially, things like the NASA panel that has all the air tunnel gaps and stuff in it. There's things like that. It's a 30mm chassis instead of 32mm. There's all these things that make it better. I had a better engine even. In the Tony Kart I had the new engine, but then I also put that engine across into the new kart. So it's got technically the same engine, but it's a new kart. But because of the fundamentals, I was almost the same pace immediately, despite the fact that the kart drives completely differently. I was still on pace or very close to it very, very quickly. And even making pretty decent setup changes, like changing the caster angle and changing the front bumper height and changing the front tire height and stuff like that as well. Even changing settings like that, I still was on pace fairly quickly. So that's what I want. I want someone to take this old kart that isn't allowed to compete anymore because it's so old. My coach actually said it's a vintage car. It's the sort of thing that he would have... the kart itself is far too young for him to have grown up with, but the engine is exactly he would have grown up racing that engine, is what he told me. He said the kart is practically vintage at this point. 2014 Krypton chassis with a 2001 engine. Ooh. So what I want, that's the old engine, of course. The 2001 non-Evo, that's the old engine. New engine is 2026, it's brand new. But that's what I want, basically. I want to chuck the old engine on. I want to do it up to make sure it actually works, because that's the reason why I stopped using it, is because the engine itself, I don't think it was losing compression, but I know the power valve was dying. The power valve wasn't working at all, at the worst of it. The power valve just would never work, ever. So I'd be bogging down everywhere, and I stalled and cut power multiple times, despite the fact that I was in high RPM. So, yeah, so I want to do up the engine in order for that to not happen. I want to basically restore an engine, which I've already done that. I restored a whole go-kart that includes the engine. So I've already done that, so I just want to do that. And then once I've done the engine up, I'll clean up the kart a little bit and then sell it to someone who wants to start practicing and learn the fundamentals with a very, very simple, relatively simple kart. And then, when they feel they're ready to start competing, then they can go buy a new kart, which is going to be way more complicated with all the different things going on. But it's going to mean that they're now ready for it because they've had the practice with the old kart. So that's my thinking. That's what I reckon. And honestly, I don't know how long it's going to be before I end up selling it. I just don't know. But that's on the cards, is my plan. That's my card. That's my plan. Basically, just how long is it going to take to do that? Because I'm not going to be practicing with it anymore. I have no reason to, really. I've got a brand new kart that I'm practicing for competition with. what's the point of using the Tony Kart, you know? There's just really not much point. So yeah, that's pretty much, that's the update, is that I myself will not be practicing with the Tony Kart ever again, pretty much. And like I said at the start, unless some big catastrophic thing happens, but once again, I don't think that's going to happen. The chance of that is pretty small. So essentially that means the writing on the wall is that I will not be practicing with the Tony Kart anymore. Pretty much no matter what, I will not be practicing with it anymore. And my intention is to sell it to someone who is in the exact position I was in a couple of years back when I first started everything, so they can basically go through the same motions I did, and I feel like I had it pretty good with getting ready for competition. So I reckon if they follow in roughly, vaguely similar footsteps to me, they'll end up doing pretty well. I myself, pure numbers, first race did really poorly, but the sheer amount of experience that I had from it is way more valuable than any position I could have got. Unless it was first place. But again, it's my first race. I'm never going to get first place. As I found out, not even vaguely close. I wasn't even close to mid-pack most of the time. Even though I had the raw pace to be in mid-pack, I never saw mid-pack because I was always at the back for some reason. I know the reasons why, but various different reasons. I was always at the back. But regardless, so that's my thinking. That's what I think I'm going to do moving forward. I know I'm not going to be practicing with the kart anymore, but it's more about what I'm thinking of doing to the Tony Kart. That's my thoughts for the future. So, yeah, that's pretty much about it for this update. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye, everybody.